You are not your pain. You are the power that rises despite it. There is something deeply human about pain. It arrives uninvited, lingers without permission, and often becomes a part of our identity before we even realize it. It can come in many forms: the heartbreak of a lost love, the disappointment of unfulfilled dreams, the ache of rejection, or the silent suffering that no one else seems to notice. Pain can be loud or it can be quiet, but it always leaves a mark. So many of us begin to define ourselves through what hurt us. We start to see ourselves through the lens of brokenness. We carry our wounds like mirrors, reflecting them in everything we do. We start believing that we are too damaged to be whole, too weak to be strong again. But that belief, that quiet, constant whisper, is a lie, a powerful lie. Because pain, as real and consuming as it is, does not define who we are. What defines us is how we rise from it. Pain is not the end. It is a beginning, a doorway to a deeper understanding of who we are. It tests us, yes? Yes. It strips us down. But it also reveals something that ease never can: resilience. When you have been through the fire, and you're still standing, even if you're shaking, that is power. That is strength. That is you rising. The world often celebrates perfection, joy, and success. But the truth is, some of the most beautiful souls are the ones who have suffered deeply and yet kept going. They are the ones who cry behind closed doors and still show up with a smile. The ones who have lost everything and still choose to give. These are not weak people. These are warriors in disguise. To rise from pain does not mean to forget it. It doesn't mean to pretend it never happened. It means to look pain in the eye and say, "You are part of my story, but not the whole story." But not the whole story. It means you no longer allow your pain to control your narrative. You don't let it decide what you can or cannot do. You don't let it keep you small. And yes, some pain stays. Some wounds don't heal the way we want them to. Some losses will always sting. But even then, we can learn to carry them differently, with grace, with softness, with the quiet knowledge that we are more than what hurt us. We are more than the worst thing that ever happened to us. There will be days when the weight feels too heavy. When you doubt your own strength, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. But in those moments, I want you to remember the times you thought you'd never make it, and yet you did. The moments you fell but still got up. The days you were breaking inside but still chose kindness. That is your power. That is who you are. You are not here to live in fear of pain. You are here to rise above it, to transform it, to turn it into compassion, into wisdom, into light for someone else still stuck in the dark. Because when you rise, you don't rise alone. You carry others with you. You become living proof that pain is not the end, that healing is possible, that strength can be quiet and still change everything. Stop feeding weak feelings. Start feeding your faith. There's a quiet war happening inside all of us. A tug of war between the voice that tells us we can and the one that insists we can't. Between our highest self whispering dreams into our soul and the echo of fear reminding us of every failure, every heartbreak, every time we tried and fell short. That second voice, the one soaked in doubt, hesitation, and insecurity, thrives on weak feelings. It grows when we let ourselves dwell in fear. It becomes louder when we replay negative thoughts, when we compare our journey to others, when we believe we are not enough. Weak feelings are deceptive. They show up in the form of excuses, of procrastination, of anger, of envy. They tell us it's safer to stay where we are, even if we're unhappy. They tell us not to try because we might fail again. But real power comes from owning your whole story, even the parts you wish you could erase, because every chapter, even the painful ones, shape the person you are today. Acceptance does not mean you approve of what happened. It does not mean it was okay or that it didn't hurt. It simply means you are no longer willing to be at war with it. You are choosing peace. You are choosing to look in the mirror and love the version of you who survived it all. The moment you accept what is, you stop leaking energy into what can't be changed, and you begin to redirect that energy into what can. We spend so much of our lives waiting for things to be perfect before we allow ourselves to feel peace. We think, I'll be happy when I'm healed, when I'm successful, when I've proved them wrong. But the truth is, peace doesn't come after the journey. It comes when you accept where you are, even in the middle of the mess. Even when the answers trins önskam yet. Even when you're still learning how to breathe again. There's freedom in saying, this is my reality, and I will make something beautiful out of it. There's strength in choosing to grow, even if the soil is broken. When you stop resisting what is, you begin to realize that you are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to do with it. And that choice, that moment of quiet, radical acceptance, is where your power returns. Acceptance doesn't make you weak. Doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean you stop dreaming or that you settle. In fact, it's the foundation for all growth. Because when you accept your truth, you finally have solid ground to stand on. You're no longer building a future on top of denial or illusion. You're starting from a place of clarity, and from there, anything becomes possible. Most people think power looks like control, like having everything figured out. But real power is softer than that. Real power is being able to say, this is hard, and I'm still here. Real power is facing your pain with compassion instead of shame. It's forgiving yourself for not knowing better and then choosing to know better now. It's the quiet decision again and again to rise from where you are, not from where you wish you were. Your scars are not shame. They are your story. We live in a world that glorifies perfection, that filters flaws and edits imperfections until everything looks polished, smooth, and untouched. In this world, scars are often seen as something to hide, something to be embarrassed about. We're taught to cover our pain, to smile through the ache, to never let anyone see where we've been hurt. But scars are not signs of weakness. They are evidence that we've survived. That we've walked through fire and came out the other side, not unburned, but stronger. A scar is a mark left by healing. It means the wound closed. It means the body or the heart or the soul did the hard work of mending itself. It may not look perfect. It may never fully fade. But it's there to remind you of everything you've overcome. Every scar carries a story, and every story has value. It's easy to look at yourself and only see what's broken. It's harder, but far more powerful, to look at yourself and see what's been rebuilt. We often think that people will love us more if we present the polished version of ourselves, the one without the baggage, without the pain, without the past. But true connection, the kind that touches the soul, does not come from perfection. It comes from truth. It comes from the courage to say, this is who I am, and this is what I've been through. When we show our scars, we give others permission to show theirs. We create a space where people don't have to pretend, where they don't have to hide the messy parts of their journey. There is beauty in brokenness. There is strength in vulnerability. A scar is not the end of something. It is the beginning of something new. It is where you were wounded, yes, but also where you began to grow again. Think of the trees that are struck by lightning and still find a way to blossom. Think of the rivers that carve through stone. There is resilience in nature, and that same resilience lies within you. Sometimes we wish our scars didn't exist. We wish certain things hadn't happened. We carry shame over things we couldn't control, pain from choices we made when we didn't know better. But shame only thrives in silence. When you speak your truth, when you embrace your story, you take away its power to hurt you. You stop being a prisoner of your past and start becoming the author of your future. The people who inspire the world the most are not the ones who've never fallen. They are the ones who have fallen and gotten back up. The ones who faced rejection, trauma, illness, loss, and still found a way to love, to create, to hope again. Their light doesn't come from untouched beauty. It comes from the depths of their journey. From every crack that let the light in. From every scar that taught them how to live with more compassion and less judgment. Your scars may remind you of pain, but they also remind you of power. You didn't break beyond repair. You didn't stay in the dark. You found your way through. You kept breathing. You kept going. And now those scars are your truth. Not a truth of shame, but a truth of survival, of growth, of strength you didn't even know you had. You are not less because of what you've endured. You are more layered, more open, more human. You don't need perfect circumstances to rise. We often wait. We wait for the right moment, the right conditions, the right version of ourselves to begin. We tell ourselves that once we feel ready, once everything falls into place, once the fear goes away, then we will try, then we will act, then we will rise. But life doesn't work like that. It doesn't wait for us to feel ready. It doesn't pause while we prepare. It moves forward with or without our permission. And the truth is, the perfect moment is a myth. Circumstances will never be perfect. There will always be something unfinished, something uncertain, something not quite right. If you wait for the noise to quiet down before you begin, you might wait forever. Rising doesn't happen when everything is ideal. It happens when you choose to stand in the middle of the storm. It happens when you feel unsure, unqualified, and unprepared, and still take one small step forward. Small step forward. We look at people who inspire us and think they had some advantage we didn't, that they were born confident, or lucky, or fearless. But if you look closer, you'll find they started before they felt ready. They started with trembling hands and hopeful hearts. They rose in messy rooms with unfinished healing and uncertain futures. They rose in pain, through rejection, through fear. And so can you. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about doing what you can with what you have. Rising doesn't mean leaping. Sometimes it's just lifting your head when it feels heavy. Sometimes it's speaking when your voice shakes. Sometimes it's getting out of bed when your heart is broken. These small acts of courage, done in imperfect moments, are what build the foundation of change. You don't need all the answers to start. You don't need a clear path to take the first step. What you need is the willingness to believe that where you are now is not where you have to stay. What you need is the strength to trust that progress matters more than perfection. The people who wait for perfect conditions often miss the chance to become who they were meant to be. But those who rise despite the chaos, who choose action over hesitation, are the ones who create transformation. Your power is not hidden in a perfect moment. It is hidden in your decision to show up again and again, even when the moment is far from perfect. Growth does not require clarity. It requires courage. It asks you to try while you're unsure, to begin while you're afraid, to keep going even when it hurts. Because the journey isn't about proving that you're perfect. It's about discovering that you're powerful. The world doesn't need a flawless version of you. It needs the real you. The one who dares to rise in imperfection. The one who keeps going when things don't go as planned. The one who carries doubt but still takes the leap. Your resilience is not measured by how easy your path is, but by how willing you are to walk it anyway. Rising begins with a mindset. A quiet choice that says, I will no longer wait for everything to be perfect. It's about taking what life has given you, the good, the bad, the painful, and turning it into something meaningful. It's about showing yourself that you are not defined by your circumstances, but by how you respond to them. That power, that grit, that unshakable belief in possibility, that is what rising truly is. Self-love is the most powerful revolution in a world that constantly tells you who to be, what to look like, how to act, and what to chase. Choosing to love yourself becomes an act of rebellion. It goes against the grain of every message that says you are not enough unless you are more beautiful, more successful, more perfect. But self-love isn't about ego, and it's not about arrogance. It's about quietly reclaiming the right to exist fully as you are, without apology, without comparison, and without shame. Self-love is not just about treating yourself to something nice on a bad day. It's not a one-time gesture. It's a daily decision. It's choosing to be kind to yourself when your mind tries to pull you into judgment. It's speaking to yourself with gentleness when the old voices of criticism start to echo. It's refusing to punish yourself for being human. It's looking in the mirror and seeing more than flaws, seeing depth, history, growth, and strength. The revolution begins when you stop basing your worth on how others see you. When you stop chasing validation from people who don't understand your soul. When you realize that you were never meant to fit into someone else's mold because you were born to stand out in your own shape. Self-love asks you to stop measuring your value by how productive you are, how perfect your image is, or how much you're liked. It asks you to remember your inherent worth, the kind that isn't earned but simply exists. Loving yourself doesn't mean you don't see your areas of growth. It means you choose to grow from a place of compassion instead of criticism. It means you don't wait until you've achieved something to be kind to yourself. You offer grace in the middle of the process. You become your own safe space instead of your harshest critic. And when you do that, everything begins to change, not just internally, but externally too. The way you allow others to treat you changes. The boundaries you set become clearer. The decisions you make reflect your values. So many of us were taught to put ourselves last, to equate selflessness with worthiness. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. Because you cannot light the world if your own flame is burning out. Self-love is how you fuel your own fire. It is how you remind yourself that you are not just here to survive. You are here to live, to feel joy, to experience peace, to rest without guilt, to speak without fear. The most powerful people are not those who never struggled. They are the ones who have met their darkness and still chose to love themselves anyway. The ones who have scars and stretch marks and heartbreaks, but wear them with pride because they no longer seek permission to exist. They love themselves not because they were never broken, but because they know their worth is greater than what they've been through. Self-love creates freedom. It frees you from needing to be perfect. It frees you from trying to keep everyone happy at the cost of your own peace. It frees you to be fully present in your own life, to take up space, to speak your truth, to pursue your passions without waiting for approval. And as you begin to live in that truth, you become a mirror for others. You show them what is possible when someone dares to love themselves fiercely, radically, and without condition.